Welcome to The Good Ride, where thanks to you, good readers, I've been avoiding reality full time for almost a decade now. And this is the review of the 2021 Union Atlas. Been completely overhauled. And I compared it against the Union Atlas 2018 with 2020 straps, so 2020-ish Atlas. The Atlas FC, this is just the large. The Falcor, and the good old Union Strata. These are three bindings that I'm asked about probably the most of Union's line. And because of COVID-19, I didn't really get a lot of, didn't get any lift time. I got some drift time though. I took my drift boards up with these, my Adidas Tactical ADVs, and the Jones Mountain Twin, which is a great board for testing bindings because it likes a binding that turns fast and tells you when it's fast and also tells you when your binding isn't responsive enough. So after doing that, I took out my 20-ish binding along with this, put one binding on the front foot, the 2021, put the old one on the back foot, the 2020. Thanks, Riley, for that suggestion. Great idea. And it was great to see how they compared. So to give you a quick summary, the Union Atlas was overhauled completely from last season. They built it up from the bottom to the top, but it still has a lot of that great Atlas personality. It has one of the softest high backs in their line, yet it's one of the most responsive bindings in their line. And that's a pretty hard thing to do. This year, it's a little less responsive than the old Atlas, but just by a little bit, and incredibly more damp, but it still has all of that Atlas personality that blends with a wide variety of boards. I put both these Atlas on the scale, and the weight is exactly the same. They're both 2 pounds. So nothing's changed there, and they feel the same. So all Union bindings are very light. Regarding the Highback Flex, I was really worried when I read the catalog. I thought for sure, oh no, they've stiffened it up because they said it was really stiff high back. But looking at this, oh yeah, just as soft as ever, even softer than the old Atlas. I can still twist this one, but it's just not as soft as this. Compare that to the Atlas FC, whew, tough one. Compare that to the Falcor. This has a little twist, but barely any give. Very stiff high back, despite how flexy it looks. And then the Strata, pretty stiff too. Has a little twist though. So one of the softest high back in their line. When talking about the flex underfoot and the buttering, the new Atlas has changed the footbed completely underfoot. It still has the same kind of Union thing where they're trying to minimize contact, and all you see really here is a full-size disc, and the rest of the binding is either kind of this rubberish foam or hollowed out in different places this year, but the effect's pretty much the same. The one difference though is this is a soft EVA foam, so it bends in easier when you twist, and this was a little easier to butter with. Not by much, but a little bit easier. Kind of like what happened with the Falcor a few years back when this went from soft foam to this denser EVA foam. But then from there, it's about the same as the Atlas FC, but the Falcor and the Strata are easier. They just have less contact with the board, with the mini disc, and they have an easier twist, and they're easier to butter with than the Atlas. So if that's something you're really into, then those might be the call. When it comes to response, the Union Atlas is really unique. It's all business and response down at the base plate here, then all party in the high back up top. It's just such a unique binding when it comes to that, because you don't usually get a binding this responsive with this soft of a high back, and I really love that feel. It's not quite as responsive as the old Atlas. When I had the old Atlas on the back foot and the new Atlas on the front foot, I noticed that the old Atlas could initiate a turn a little faster. Once the turn was initiated, I felt like they were working together again, like it was that same old Atlas response that I loved. But initially, I think it's just because this has that soft, This has that, there goes that screw again, that soft EVA foam on the bottom that kind of bends into the board and initiates quicker. And this has that denser kind of rubber type of foam that doesn't initiate as fast. But it was worth it to give up that little bit of response for all this dampness. This is way faster, the Atlas FC. This is just the large again. I would say it's debatable, depending on your riding style and preferences and the board, which binding is more responsive. I think this will handle a stiffer board better, but this will handle a softer board better and turn it faster, the Falcor. And then I would say the Strata, while being no slouch response-wise, is a little less than the Atlas. But Union is known for being a little more on the responsive side of the spectrum, so they're all pretty responsive. When talking about shock absorption and dampness, the new Union Atlas really has some good stuff going on here. They went from all EVA foam on the bottom to all this kind of rubbery type of EVA foam, and you can just see the difference. And what that does is the old Atlas is a little better with kind of those slow speed, kind of small, going small kind of shock absorption, but this is better at everything else. And when I put this on the back foot and put this on the front foot, I couldn't believe how much more the 2020 Atlas was chattering on the back foot than the front foot. The front foot was fine, just handling the uneven snow, the uneven ungroomed snow. The back foot was going like this a lot more. And this was already a damp binding before the overhaul. It was on the damper side of things. It wasn't chattery. And now I think the Union Atlas has elevated itself and it's starting to get close to maybe what I would call like the pinnacle of dampness in the industry. The now bindings with their 4 rubber stoppers and that kind of stuff. With this rubber base plate, it felt damp and just reducing all the chatter that comes up from underneath. It's even damper now. Before, it used to be kind of a toss-up between the old Atlas and the Strata, where I felt the Strata had that mini disc, so it wasn't really dampening underfoot like the Atlas, but the Atlas had the EVA foam versus this dense rubber, so it kind of evened out. Now this is just a huge step up from the Strata and the Falcor, which both have that kind of foam, that rubbery foam on the bottom. It's one of the dampest in the line. So the support is about the same as last year's with the new. There's just a few tweaks that have changed it up a little bit. The surface area of the ankle strap is about the same as the old one, but check this out. Like if I were to pinch this, it's pretty hard for me to do so. But then I take the same one and I pinch here and it's a lot easier. Just the entire ankle strap still has very similar support, but it just feels like it conforms to the curvature of my boot in the front much better. So I really like that. The toe strap, I kind of like the older toe strap a little better. It was smaller and it fit over the front of my boot really well, where this one had the sides kind of stuck out over it just a little bit. It was hard to pick up on camera, but it did, and it felt a little awkward. But here's the thing though, it's stuck onto the boot just like the old ones and still has that great Union grip that I really appreciate. When it comes to the ratchets, they're about the same. The only difference I've noticed is the ladders. This ladder feels a little softer and a little thinner than this old ladder, and same with all the other ladders on all the other 2021 Union bindings. I'm not sure if they just decided to trim it down or if this is just what's happening in the demo and production will be the same as this, but I like this old, stiffer ladder. It still worked fine. I didn't notice it on the mountain, but I did notice it when I got into the studio and started geeking on it. So when it comes to adjustability to your boot and your stance width, Union is one of the best in the industries with all their bindings, but the best in their line is the Atlas and the Force. The Atlas FC is pretty close. It's better than the Falcor and the Strata for a couple reasons. First off, you have an adjustable gas pedal where these don't. Then you have an adjustable heel loop. These have that as well. But you can basically fit your any size in the size range. This is a medium, so 8 to 10. Any boot in any footprint will probably fit this if you slide the gas pedal out correctly and the heel loop out correctly. When you do that, you can center the boot in the binding and therefore center both on your board. And then you can turn these discs, instead of setting them this way and sliding them heel to toe, edge to edge, you can turn them this way and slide it tip to tail and get really good adjustability. Now, a couple things I don't like, well, you know, I don't love, but I don't hate either, is the new, this is the old disc and this is the new disc. The new disc doesn't have that long channel. I love that channel because you could set it up mini disc style if you wanted to, or just have more slide and you could get almost any stance width you wanted. This is still pretty good. Both, as you can see, are Burton channel compatible. And when you can center your boot in the binding, you don't really have to worry about anything else. You just need those two holes, pop it down in there, you're centered on board, and slide it for infinite stance width adjustability. Now, another thing I don't really like about this new Atlas is this footbed. It comes in 3 pieces now. You have the screw that literally pops out for no reason and will go flying off into the carpet of your room or onto a black asphalt in spring and just disappear because it's a black screw. Or in snow, it'll just disappear too, and that kind of sucks. I wish they would just put some kind of, see, now it's gone on the carpet. Shit. I wish they would just put some kind of just washer to hold everything in place that you can still kind of pull it out from. I know they can do it, they just don't, and it's a real pain in the ass. Now you have this extra piece of EVA foam. Hopefully in production, I only got this, but in production they might have a couple different densities like they did with the Atlas FC, so you can kind of play around with response. So that's kind of cool. Just wish they could hold it all together better. Now, the Atlas has typical toolless adjustability for the toe and ankle strap. No big deal there. You've got some cool changes to the high back rotation though that I kind of like, and let me show you why. So right here you can see this has 3 holes. So what happened is if you rotate the high back, this part right here would poke out a bit and it would cause wear and tear on some boots, unnecessary wear and tear. This year they fixed that and they went with 2 holes. So when you rotate it now, it doesn't poke out or cause any damage. And if you want to rotate it further, like you could with the old one, you still can by just pulling the heel loop out a little bit more on one side and pushing it in a little bit on the other, and then you can completely and perfectly line up your high backs to the heel side edge so you have much better edge to edge transitioning, more symmetrical turning. So that's pretty cool. When it comes to forward lean, there is a new toolless forward lean. It's a little smaller than the old one. Does the same thing though, as you can see. These are both size mediums. And I'm really not seeing any difference in the forward lean angle. It's about the same. I personally hate forward lean. Even with Atlas, all this forward lean would bite into these lovely even featured calves that I have. Talking about the footbed size, This is kind of interesting for adjustability because this is the toe ramp slid all the way out, and I'm going to compare it against the footbed of the Falcor here. And you can see the footbed of the Falcor, and the same thing for the Strata, is a little longer. It's just about the same as the old one. If you compare this to the Contact Pro, you can see it's just about the same size. So it's a little longer with these, a little shorter with these. I like the footprint on the board of the Atlas, the Force, and the Atlas FC better. Overall, I love the redesign of the new Atlas, despite the fact that it has softer ladders, kind of like a little off-fitting toe strap, and it's maybe a touch less responsive than it used to be, but I get so much more dampness and better fitting ankle straps and just an all-around better ride. And it's been a long time coming. They haven't really done much with the Atlas for a long time, so it was great to see this overhaul. And it's a binding I want to own and use a lot next year.